All right. Hi, guys. Michael Didier here. Thank you so much for joining me. Today, we're talking about the Day of Coverings. You know, so much of what we've heard about some golden calf forgiving sins, I think we're going to find out today that Israel's sins are forgiven on this particular day, the Day of Coverings. You'll see that more as we get to the end. But keep in mind, this is Israel's seed who is being forgiven of their sins. Israel's seed are men. Israel's seed are men who have left the kingdom of their birth, circumcised themselves at Passover or before. I was circumcised on the 8th day, just the way I was supposed to be, thankfully. And then participated in the Passover and became Ezrach men. This is who we're talking about, Ezrach men. Israel are Ezrach men. So much to see, so much to understand. This is why we're going through our journey through Torah just this week. Here, I'm going to pull this up. I came up with a new piece of art for some of the videos that don't have good art to go with them. And so we've got Journey Through Torah, going down the rabbit hole. That's what we do here at We Are Israel. This is what we're doing on our journey through Torah, is we're going down the rabbit hole. We're learning things that most people have never even thought about, and breaking down many, many false images in our minds. You know, we have false images in our minds that need to be toppled. Right now, in the world, politically, we're seeing many false images coming down. We thought our government had our own best interest in mind. And now we're finding out that we have been slaves. Our fathers have been slaves. We have learned worthless and unprofitable things. But politically, that's all coming out. But there are many religious things. I hate to even call it religion. You know what? Yehovah is about kingdom, not religion. It's about kingdom. The two things that we're not supposed to talk about is dying and taxes. They're not part of Yehovah's kingdom, because there's an eternal life for men who have learned Yehovah's ways and followed him and became Ezrach. They'll be raised from the dead. We see it in Isaiah 26. Psalms 50, verse 5. Well, today we're talking about Yom Kippur-rim. And even as I studied it this time, I've studied this many, many, many times, but I still learned things that I had actually maybe forgotten, perhaps, or things that maybe I just never really considered. Here, my very first sentence in my introduction to this chapter, it says, on this day, the high priest. You guys, it's not the high priest. It is a priest. Makes a covering for many things and people. We think it's the priest. But I don't think it's the high priest any longer. Thought it was for a long time. But let me read my introduction. I'm reading on the right here. It says, on this day, a priest We got to get rid of the, don't we? A priest makes a covering for many things and people. First for himself, his family, his fellow priests. For the holy, where the ark of the testimony resides, and the tent as a whole, the Ohel Moed. They always call it the tent of meetings. For the Olah altar, which is outside the tent. And last but not least, all Israel, Ezrach men. If the men are covered, the ladies are covered. I think that even the ger who dwell with them are covered. Remember, the ger actually have an obligation once Passover comes to circumcise themselves, all the men of their household, and become Israel. But in the interim, there are people who are joining the Ezra men who I think are going to be covered because of what's going on here. I put it as a day of coverings, not a day of, they want to talk about a day of atonement. We're going to talk about atonement later. It's not a day of covering. It's a day of coverings. We're covering lots of things on this day. I said, keep in mind that if men are covered, so are their families. This chapter reminds me of this description of the 3 days of darkness in Egypt. This is from Yasher. Let me just read it to you, and then I'll tell you why I say this. It says, and Elohim sent darkness upon Egypt, that the whole land of Egypt and Pathros became dark for 3 days, so that the men could not see his hand. A man could not see his hand when he lifted it in front of his face. And at that time died many people of Israel. Hear that? Israel's people are dying, many of them, who had rebelled against Jehovah and who would not hearken to Moses and Aaron. They called them Israel's people, but they didn't. They rebelled against Jehovah and would not hearken to Moses and Aaron, and believed not in them that Elohim had sent them. And who had said, we will not go forth from Egypt, lest we perish with hunger in a desolate wilderness. And who would not hearken to the voice of Moses. And Jehovah plagued them in the 3 days of darkness. And the Israelites buried them in those days. Remember, they had light. Without the Egyptians knowing of them or rejoicing over them. Here are Israel, 2 different kinds of men in Israel. We're talking about men. We're not talking about ladies. Who died because they would not follow Moses and Aaron, and who had rebelled against Jehovah. Oh, my goodness. Well, keep that in mind as we go through what we're going to talk about today, especially as it relates to the 2 kids of goats. Here's our first verse. It says, and Jehovah spoke to Moses after the death of 2 sons of Aaron. When they, it says offered profane fire. Let me tell you what it really says. Here it is on the right. And Jehovah spoke, I'm reading here, and Jehovah spoke to Moses after the death of 2 of Aaron's seed. It doesn't even say sons. It says seed, B'nai. Not Benim. Interesting. When they came before Jehovah's face and died. Remember, that happened the very day that we set up the tabernacle for the very first time. They died because they came before Jehovah's face and died. This is what the high priest is going to do today. He's going to literally come before Jehovah's face. He's going inside the veil. In fact, I think we're going to see that in our very next, verse. Let me just turn to that. Do I have anything more that I want to talk about here? I think we're going to get to it. Let's go to 2. And Jehovah said to Moses, tell Aaron your brother not to come at just any time into the holy place, inside the veil. This is not the holy place. This is the holy of holy place. Kodesh HaKodeshim, the most holy place, inside the veil, before the mercy seat, which is on the ark, lest he die, for I will appear in a cloud above the mercy seat. Is this what those boys did? Did they literally come inside the veil? Or were they planning on coming inside the veil? I don't remember where Jehovah killed them. It seemed like it was outside the tent. Maybe even outside the courtyard. But they had intentions. They had their censer filled with incense, didn't they? In fact, they say profane fire, offered profane fire. What made it profane fire? Well, actually, profane fire is not even a part of it. That's not even a part of this verse. But they were doing it at a time that they weren't supposed to do it. That's why Jehovah is talking about Aaron's son and saying, don't just come at any time. No, you're going to do it when I tell you to do it. And that's what this is all about. I think it's interesting that Jehovah, again, is always appearing in a cloud of smoke. Not coming on 2 white horses, folks. It's a false image that we've learned. Here, he says, don't come before him at just any time. I found some verses that I thought were interesting. And many of them had to do with Aaron's seed. But who can endure the day of his coming? And who can stand when he appears? For he is like a refiner's fire and like launderer's soap. Both are about purifying things. Refiner's fire purifies metals. Soap purifies fabrics. He will sit as a refiner and a purifier of silver. He will purify Levi's seed and purge them as gold and silver, that they may bring to Jehovah a minka. Remember, that's the wine, the different grains that are brought to the Ola altar. In righteousness, they're being purified so that they are righteous. They learn Jehovah's ways. That's what righteousness is. Righteousness, you don't believe your way to righteousness. No, you learn righteousness. Righteousness is doing Jehovah's statutes and judgments and ordinances. That's righteousness. Who may ascend into the hill of Jehovah? Or who may stand in his holy place? He who has clean hands and a pure heart, who has not lifted up his soul to an idol, nor sworn deceitfully. A pure heart. Remember, this is the day of coverings. We're to afflict our soul. And having a pure heart goes very much along with this. He says, no, actually, this is my saying, but the unholy cannot abide with the holy. You can't do it. Oh, but don't you know we don't have to keep the commandments of Yehovah anymore? The unholy cannot abide with the holy, folks. Wherever the Holy One sees imperfection, impurity, or anything that is not consistent with his holy image, especially within his chosen vessel, who's his chosen vessel? Israel. He will purge impurity from, from and by his holy presence. Therefore, Aaron, his son, and all subsequent priests, I should say his sons, remember, they're all his sons, his seed, and all subsequent priests, B'nai Aaron, Aaron's seed, are warned not to presume to come into the presence of the Holy One at all times, nor on their own terms. This is what we're talking about. This is why he's talking about Aaron's sons being killed. Here's David. I believe this was David. No, this is Isaiah. Here. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Woe to those who are wise in their own eyes and prudent in their own sight, because they have rejected the law of Yehovah of hosts and despised the word of the Holy One of Israel. Therefore, the anger of Yehovah is aroused against them. Remember, it's all about learning and doing righteousness. In this case, it's about Aaron's seed doing it. Verse 3, thus Aaron shall come into the holy place. You know, I have to read it on the right. It's so much easier. There are so many things that are not there. The blood of, it's not there. I mean, I think that they're probably going to be doing that eventually. Thus shall Aaron come towards the holy with a young bullock for sin, kata'ah, and a ram for olah. So here's Aaron coming towards the holy. Not killing these animals yet. He's bringing the animals in. He's bringing a ram and he's bringing a young bull. Probably both within the year. Aaron is coming into the temple courtyard towards the holy. He is bringing two animals with him, but he's not killing them yet. This is all about preparing Aaron for this day of coverings. It seems also that Aaron is arriving in his street clothes. Yeah, he's not got the priest garments on right now. He's arriving in street clothes. If the anointed priest sins, here, this is the instructions that we got. Concerning the kata'ah. You know, I think I'm going to hold off on just doing that right now. He's bringing in the right things. He's bringing in a young bull for a kata'ah. He's bringing in a ram for a olah offering. Olah is Leviticus 1. It says, he shall put on the holy linen tunic. So, look what it says. Linen tunic, linen trousers on his body. He shall be girded with the linen sash, and with the linen turban he shall be attired. These are holy garments. Therefore he shall wash his body in water and put them on. He's not putting on priestly things. He's not a priest. He's putting on the things that a priest wears, the linen garments. I said, but here Aaron is only putting on the garments of a priest, not those of the high priest. Why? I think it's because Jehovah only requires a priest to do this. And we're going to see, actually, we see in Torah, and we also see it in different portions of the rest of the Tanakh. Sometimes the priests are the priest that's going to go in gets it by lot. I scored. I get to go before Jehovah. But we will see that this is not always done by the high priest. Yeah. You know what? I had it in my mind today that it was done by the high priest. And it wasn't until I got to almost the very end of this that I realized, oh, this is why he's wearing linen garments. He's not wearing all the things that the high priest wears. Remember, that's what the high priest looks like. The ephod, the blue thing. All the other stuff is not there. He's only wearing the white things. Verse 5. And he shall take from the congregation of Israel's seed, the assembly of Israel's seed. Here, I wrote it on the right here. And he shall take from Israel's seed's assemblage 2 male goats for a kata'ah, and 1 ram for an olah. So these animals, where are they coming from? Israel's seed. Remember that. It's important. I put these are male goats. It says 2 male goats for the kata'ah, but only 1 will be for the kata'ah. For the sin. And I've got some other verses about this. I don't really want to go through that today. I've got so many more things in my notes that I could talk about, but we'll leave that for another day. Never mind. Aaron shall offer a bull. So now here's the bull. And Aaron shall offer the bull. So we talked about the bull here. Here's the young bull for a kata'ah. Aaron shall offer a bull as a kata'ah. As a kata'ah. It doesn't say offering. Which is for himself. And make atonement for himself and his house. Here, I wrote it here again. And Aaron shall bring his bullock, a kata'ah, which is for himself, and he shall cover himself. They always want to make atonement. It's always about atonement. I guess we'll get down to that later on. Cover himself and his house. Who's his house? All his sons are his house. But here they're saying Aaron. But whoever does it, in a sense, because they're all Aaron's seed, they're all going to be covering himself. Any priest who does it is going to be covering himself and all the rest of the priests, his fellow priests. And remember, if they're covered, so are their families. Now, this word covering is the word kafar. There it is right there, kafar. Look at what it says about the ark. Make yourself an ark of gopher wood. Make rooms in the ark and cover, here's the word, kafar, and cover it inside and out with kofar. Kafar, kofar. Kafar is the action that's being done when you're putting on the kofar. And this is what's happening right now is he is kafaring himself, covering himself. Actually, he's doing the thing so that Yehovah will cover him. Oh, yeah, here. It says, make atonement. Atonement. Kafar says cover. Abstract, it says atonement. I think atonement is a terrible word because an atonement is something that the offender is going to do for the offendee. On the contrary, I think what's happening right now is the offendee is covering the offender. It's the complete opposite. So I think atonement is a really bad word, calling it the Day of Atonement. No, this is the day of coverings. And they say atonement. What about atonements? I mean, it's a plural word. A protective covering to go over something or covering of a debt wrong. The wrongdoer can't cover his own debt. Yehovah does that. Well, let's continue. 7. I'm going to read it on the right. It says, he shall take the 2 goats. This is 2. This is the right here, and then we've got the goats. It's a plural, arum. And present them before Yehovah's face. Look at what it says, though. At the door of the tent of meetings. Remember, he came in with the young bull and the ram. And then it said, what does it say? Israel's seed. And he shall take from Israel's seed assembly 2 kids of goats. Apparently they're not in yet, because he's going to do something with them at the door of the tent of meeting. Present them before Yehovah at the door of the Ohel Moed. That's why I have Ohel up here as the tent, is the Ohel Moed, the tent of meetings. And Aaron shall cast lots upon the 2 goats. 1 lot for Yehovah and the other for the Azazel. Azazel. We're going to cast lots. You know, this is what got me thinking. Because we know we have that the high priest has the Urim and the Tumim in his breastplate. And I thought, oh, maybe that's what we're going to use for casting lots. But it's not the high priest. We're not using the high priest's garments. We're wearing the linen garments, the garments of a priest. So casting of lots, what did they use to cast lots? You know, you can cast lots with a lot of things. You got a coin? I got my silver coin. I always have my silver coin. You can pass it up. And that's casting a lot, isn't it? Heads or tails. You could draw straws. Did they go dig out the Urim and the Tumim to cast this lot? I got a hunch they didn't. Well, Azazel is the goat of departure. The Strong's. Here it says, and I'm not sure which one this is. I think this is word perfect. It says to go away, hence to disappear. Oh, that's interesting. Hence to disappear, to go away. He's going to take all Israel's sins and they're going to go away. They're going to disappear. Oh, that's really interesting. I put, to me, an atonement is something that we do. Well, a covering is something that Yehovah does. In a sense, the 2 goats represent 2 kinds of men. This is why I started with what I did in Yasher. The men who would follow Yehovah, the men who wouldn't follow Yehovah. You know, I had in my mind a false image. I thought they were two identical goats. And I've talked about two identical goats in the past. And you know what? I have to say I was wrong. Nowhere does it talk about having two identical goats in this process. But I'm going to suggest that these two goats represent Israel. Some with a pure and contrite heart who will follow Yehovah, and some with hidden sins and unwillingness to lay down their whole life for Yehovah's kingdom. Both groups look the same on the outside, just like the two goats. Yes, they're both goats. They're not identical, but they're both goats. I put the heart is deceitful above all things, desperately wicked. Who can know it? I, Yehovah, search the heart. I test the mind, even to give every man according to his ways, according to the fruit of his doings, the fruit of his doings. According to his ways. These are things that are observable. They're both goats. But Yehovah can tell the difference. We're going to see again, I pointed out, about afflicting the souls, afflicting our souls on this day. Are we serious about following Yehovah, or are we just going through the actions? See, I think that's the difference. Yehovah is interested in those. He's interested in covering the sins of those men who have a contrite heart, a pure and contrite heart. 9. I'm going to read it on the right. And Aaron shall bring the goat upon which Yehovah's lot fell, and bring him for kata, I said, this is a kata'at for who? Ask yourself, who brought the goats? See, one who brings the goats is how we know who it's for. It's for Israel's seed. And shall bring the goat on which the lot fell. Yeah, we're talking about the two goats that Israel's seed brought. Israel's seed's assembly brought. Well, here's the instructions on the kata'ah for the priest, the anointed priest, and for the whole congregation. They both have the same thing. They're going to bring a male bullock, but they're going to bring it. It says, and it says, look at this. It says the anointed priest. So this deviates a little bit from what the instructions are. Remember, this isn't the priest that's done anything wrong here. We're talking general sins, not some specific sin. When we talk about this verse in chapter 4, the priest has realized he's done something wrong, and now he's going to make amends for it. This is a little bit different, but there's some of the very same principles. In this one, though, it says the anointed priest shall take some of the blood into the tabernacle, and the priest sprinkles the blood 7 times on or near the veil. The priest takes the blood places the blood upon the horns of the golden altar of incense. That's inside the golden altar of incense. And then at the bottom, all the stuff about this is this: the rest of the bullock is burned outside the camp. No one eats the meat. This is the kata'ah. It says he shall take. He hasn't killed it yet. Okay. What did it say in that last verse? Let's make sure that we understand the flow here. And Aaron shall bring the bullock, the kata'ah, which is for covering himself and for, oh no, we're in the wrong verse here. Scapegoat. Well, what were we just doing here? Kofar. And Aaron shall bring the bullock, the kata'ah, which is for a covering for himself and for his house, and shall kill. Why were we just talking about for Israel? That was not even the same verse. Because this is what he's doing for himself right now. And in that verse, where were we just reading that? Was it below this? No. I don't know where it was. Well, like I said, we're going to deviate a little bit from what we normally look at. Aaron shall bring the bull of the kata'ah, which is for himself, and make a covering for himself, and which is a covering for himself, his house, and he shall kill the bullock, the kata'ah, which is for himself. Again, for himself. You know, you got to think if it's for himself, in a sense, it's for his seed as well. And in this case, the other priests literally are his seed. I mean, his sons. Remember, seed, we're talking about multiple generations of men going down. So he hasn't killed it yet. No, he shall kill the bull as a kata'ah, which is for himself. Then he shall take a censer full of burning coals. I'm on 12. Of fire from the altar. So he's going to go to the Ola altar, the main altar, the bronze altar outside. He's going to take ashes from there, or coals from there, and put them in a censer. From the altar before Yehovah, with his hands full of sweet incense beaten fine, and bring them inside the veil. Look at that. He is going inside the veil. This is the first time anybody has gone inside the veil since this was set up. No one has been inside the veil yet. It's the first time inside the veil. He's bringing fire and incense before Jehovah's face inside the veil. And he shall take a censer full of burning coals of fire from the altar before Jehovah's face, and his hands full of sweet incense beaten small, and bring them into the veil. He says, and he shall put, I'm reading on the right again. You can follow me on the left. Let me read it on the right, because I've gone through these translations and exhaustively. And he shall put the incense upon the fire before Yehovah. So he he carried him in separate, must be one hand, carrying him in with the other hand, carrying the fire in with the other hand, what do they call it? The censer. He's bringing the censer in one hand, and it says incense in the other hand. So now he's before Yehovah. Now he's going to put it on the censer. So that all this fragrance, all the smoke is going to go into the inner Kadesh HaKodeshim, the most holy place, before the mercy seat. And he shall put the incense on the fire before Yehovah, that the cloud of incense may cover the mercy seat. that is on the testimony, lest he die. Mercy seat covering, that's the Kippuret. I've gone into these much more deeply than I'm going to go into it today. Let's go to 14. We're limited on time too. He shall take some of the blood of the bull. So now he's going to go back out. He's going to take some of the blood of the bull and sprinkle it with his finger on the mercy seat on the east side. The east side is kind of the front of the mercy seat. And before the mercy seat, he shall sprinkle some of the blood with his finger 7 times. So he's going to sprinkle it on the east side of the mercy seat 7 times. Does it say 7 times? He says he's put his sprinkle it with his finger on the mercy seat on the east side. And before the mercy seat, he shall sprinkle some of the blood with his finger 7 times. I have to assume he's doing it 7 times on the mercy seat and 7 times on basically the ground before the mercy seat. That's my take on it. But this is the blood of the bull for himself and his household that he is sprinkling with his fingers on the mercy seat. You know, I was thinking this literally is the high priest that's doing this right now. It's Aaron that's doing it. But he's wearing priestly garments. But it's talking about him and his house. And I thought 50 years from now, 100 years from now, when a priest does it, is he still doing it for his house? I think he is. I think he is. Because his house is still B'nai Aaron. Men that came from Aaron's seed. So I think it works both ways. Here's 15. Then he shall kill the goat of the kata'ah. Remember, he came in with a bull, young bull, and I take that back. This is for the people. This is the one that was selected to be Yehovah's kata'ah. Then he shall kill the goat of the kata'ah, which is for the people. Remember, he brought in a bull for a kata'ah and a ram, a sheep, for the olah. So now we're talking about a kata'ah that's being offered for the people. Here I got it on the right. And he shall take the blood of the bullock, and sprinkle it with his finger upon the mercy seat, eastward and before the mercy seat. So he's doing exactly what he did just now for his bull, only now he's doing it for the people. And shall only he's using it for the goat, for the people. And he shall sprinkle the blood. He shall sprinkle the blood with his finger 7 times. And before the mercy seat. So on the mercy seat, upon the mercy seat, and before the mercy seat. This is the blood this is the blood of the bull. No, 14. Is that what we're on right now? We're not on 14, are we? No, we're not. We're on 15. Here we are. I'm sorry, folks. Then he shall kill the goat, the kata'ah, that is for la'am, for people, and bring his blood within the veil, the goat's blood, within the veil, to do with the blood as he did with the blood of the bullock, to sprinkle it upon the mercy seat and before the mercy seat. But this is the second time inside the veil before the mercy seat. Now he sprinkles, actually it's the third time, isn't it? Because the first time he came in was with the incense. Then he came in with the blood of the bull. Now he's coming in with the blood of the kid, of the goats. This is his, I'm going to change that, Third time inside the veil before the mercy seat. Now he sprinkles the blood of the goat on the mercy seat and before the mercy seat 7 times, just as he did with the bull, for a people. The people that the covering is being made for is Israel. Not Babylon, not anybody in the United States or Spain or Canada. This is for Israel. Those men who are his inside and out. Remember the first commandment, thou shalt have no other Elohim existing before my face. No, our lawmaker and judge is only Yahovah. They, with their families, and probably servants. I'm guessing the servants. Well, no, I said probably servants. Those are servants, but also the ger who've been to dwell with them. I think they're covered too. Will pass alive like Noah into the next world, the millennial kingdom. Remember, Noah went from the antediluvian world to the world we're in right now. I think this is kind of the same thing that's going on, passing from one world into the next. Verse 16. I'm reading on the right. And he shall cover the holy because of the uncleanliness of Israel's seed. Was it last week? What was it that we talked about last week? Was it last week? Yes, remember we were talking about human emissions last week. And why that was important. If a man was to come before Yahovah, he would make the place unclean. Sometimes it happens by accident. And this is why it's got to be cleansed. And he shall cover the holy. Cover the holy. Because of the uncleanliness of Israel's seed, and because of their transgressions, in all their sins, katam, as it's their sins, all their sins, and so he shall do for the tent. So he's doing it for the holy place. Now he's going to do it for the tent of Moed in general that remaineth among them in the midst of their uncleanliness. But how does he cover the holy? What is the holy? Is it the contents, I think, inside the tent? And then they're doing the things outside the tent? I don't know. I don't know how they do it. Is he going to sprinkle the tent? It doesn't really tell us how he's going to do that. 17. There shall be no man in the tabernacle of meeting when he goes to. There shall be no man in the tent of meeting when he goes to cover in the holy until he comes out and covers over himself, over his household, and over Israel's assemblage. So that's still to come. We haven't done that yet. So there's not going to be anybody. It sounds like there's not going to be anybody even in the remember, we eat in the holy place. The priests eat in the holy place certain things, and the holy place is in the court of the tent of meetings, in the court. So it sounds to me like all the people are still outside. Remember, they brought their 2 goats to the door of the tent of meeting. I think he's the only one in there right now, in the whole court, in the holy, until he comes out and covers over himself, over his household, the other priests, and over all Israel's assemblage, the assembly of Israel's seed, the Ezrach assemblage. And he shall go to the altar. No, he shall go out to the altar that is before Jehovah's face and cover it. And shall take some of the blood of the bullock, here's how you cover it, and the blood of the goat, and put it on the horns of the altar round about. I think he's going to sprinkle some blood too. Look what it says in the next verse. And he shall sprinkle the blood on it with his finger 7 times, and cleanse it, and cleanse it and hallow from the uncleanliness of Israel's seed. Again, during the course of a year, the place gets fouled. So we're doing a reset, if you will, of everything, including the courtyard, it sounds like. Maybe we do that just by doing the altar that's in the courtyard. We talked about cleansing. We talked about hallow. The cleansing uses this word. It's another form of tahor. This is tehar, which means to cleanse, to clean. And the other word is kadas, a verb meaning to set apart, to be holy. That's why I use the translation here as to hallow it. What did they use here? They said atonement in the holy place. No, we're down here. Atoning and to consecrate. Oh, here it is. Cleanse and consecrate. Cleanse and consecrate. To hallow it, to set it apart. That's what we're doing. We're setting apart the Ola altar, the bronze altar. Where were we then? I guess that's where we were, 20. And when he hath made an end of coverings, end of covering, and in from covering, the holy, the tabernacle, the altar, he shall bring the live goat. The live goat. This is the goat that was the Azazel goat. It says, and he shall bring the live goat. And Aaron shall lay, here, I'll move this up so you can see it better. Oh, you know what? I can make this bigger. I'm sorry I didn't do this sooner. Makes it so much easier for you guys that are watching it on your devices. It says, and Aaron shall lay both his hands upon the head of the live goat and confess over him, the goat, all the iniquities of Israel's seed, all Israel's seed's iniquities, and all their rebellion, and all their sins, putting them upon the head of the goat. And he shall send away by the hand of a fit man, send him away, the goat away, by the hand of a fit man into the wilderness. Hear that? He's putting all the sins of Israel's seed on the Azazel goat that's going to be released. I put this Leviticus 16, 21 and 22. Let me read 22. And the goat shall bear on itself all their iniquities, all Israel's seed's iniquities, to an uninhabited land. And he shall release the goat in the wilderness. So I put this bothers me. I should really say it bothered me. Because if Israel is covered Why is it still bearing sin? Remember, Israel is, in a sense, the Azazel goat that's being released into the wilderness. Why is it still bearing sin? I later realized that their sin is fully confessed sin. They know what it is. It's confessed. After Israel came out of Egypt, and just before they finally entered the promised land, Moses said this about them. Look what it says. Therefore understand that today, Yahovah, your Elohim, is he who goes over before you as a consuming fire. Remember, he's the one that purifies. He will destroy them and bring them down before you. So you shall drive them out and destroy them quickly, as Jehovah has said to you. Do not think in your heart. This is what I want you to see. After Yahovah, your Elohim, has cast them out before you, saying, because of my righteousness, Yahovah has brought me to possess this land. But it is because of the wickedness of these nations that Yahovah is driving them out from before you. It is not because of your righteousness or your uprightness of heart that you go in to possess the land. No, it's because of their wickedness. But because of the wickedness of these nations that Yahovah, your Elohim, drives them out from before you, and that he may fulfill the word which Yahovah swore to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Therefore understand that Yahovah, your Elohim, is not giving you this good land to possess it because of your righteousness, for you are a stiff-necked people. The lamb has confessed sin, or the goat has confessed sin on it. Here's what David said. I acknowledge my sin to you, and my iniquity I have not hidden. I said, I will confess my transgressions to Yahovah, and you forgave the iniquity of my sin. See, these are the only sins that Yahovah can forgive, is confessed sins. I made my wrongdoing clear to you and did not keep my sin back. I said, I will put it all before Yahovah, and you took away my wrongdoings and my sin. He who covers his sins will not prosper, but whoever confesses and forsakes them will have mercy. See, this is what it's all about on this day. This is the day of afflicting our soul. Again, the 10th day of the 7th month. This is Leviticus 23. Yeah, I'll go ahead and read it. Again, the 10th day of the 7th month shall be a day of coverings. It shall be a holy convocation for you. You shall afflict your souls and offer an offering made by fire, and you shall do no work on that same day, for it is a day of coverings, to cover you before Yahovah your Elohim. For any person, remember we're talking about men persons, who has not afflicted his soul on that same day shall be cut off from among his people. Could that be the goat that went into the fire as the kata'ah? And any person who does any work on that day, that person shall be destroyed from among his people. You shall do no manner of work. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations in your dwellings, in all your dwellings. It shall be to you a Sabbath, a solemn rest, and you shall afflict your souls on the 9th day of the month at evening. From evening to evening you shall celebrate your Sabbath. I'm not done. I've got more here. But I will establish my covenant with you, and you shall go into the ark, you, your sons, your woman, and your sons' women with you. Thus Noah did according to all Jehovah commanded him, so he did. One more. Speak not thou in thine heart, after that Jehovah thy Elohim has cast them out from before thee, saying, for my righteousness, Jehovah hath done this. Is this the same verse we read? Maybe it is. But for the wickedness of these nations, Jehovah drove them out. Yeah, it sounds like the same verse that we did. Yeah, 9:3-6. That's 4. Okay. Here it says, the goat shall bear on itself all the iniquities to an inhabited land. This is what we were just talking about. These are confessed sins. I think Israel's sins are covered on this day. I think we're going to see that in plain text here shortly. Then Aaron shall come into the tabernacle of meeting. Now it says Aaron, but remember it's about the high priest, or it's about the priest who's doing this on this particular day. It says, and Aaron shall come into the tabernacle of meeting. He was just outside when he was dealing with the goat. Now he's coming into the tabernacle of meeting. Shall take off his linen garments. So remember, he had his civvies on. And when he came in the beginning, he put on the linen garments. Now he's taking off the linen garments, which he put on when he went in to the holy place. Into the holy place. The holy place is inside the tabernacle of meetings, the court of meetings. Not the tabernacle, the court of meetings. That's the holy place. And he shall wash his body with water in the holy place. Put on his garments. So now it sounds like he's putting on his civvies. I put, I think I did. It sounds like Aaron is making these olahs or rising in his street clothes. Yeah, it does. Because look what it says right now. And I put, did he perhaps change into the high priest garments? No, I don't believe that's the case. I think he's in his civvies. And he shall wash his body with water in the holy place. Put on his garments, come out, offer the burnt offering and the burnt offering of the people, his burnt offering and the burnt offering of the people, both rams, and cover himself and the people. I put, this is the ram that Aaron brought in for himself, and the ram that the congregation of Jehovah's son, Israel, and the congregation of Jehovah's son, Israel. I don't know why I put Jehovah's son, Israel. Does it say Jehovah's son, Israel? Yeah, that's coming. I'm getting a little, but that's who they are. The congregation of Jehovah's son. Israel is Jehovah's son. They're Ezra men. That's his son. Oh, we could talk about that for a long time. It talks about the holy place. This is the makom, the holy, or in a holy place. Where do we have that? Well, just close. In a holy place. In a holy place. Where is in a holy place? In a holy place. Holy place. I think it's in the tabernacle, in the court in the court, where the bronze altar is. Now he goes on. So now we're dealing. Remember, we've got lots of dead animals lying around right now. So here's what we're doing. It says the fat of the kata'ah he shall burn on the altar. I mean, that's probably his the fat of the kata'ah burned. The kata'ah is burned, and the rest. The fat is burned. Oh yeah, okay. This is the fat. Whenever you have a kata'ah, remember the fat goes on the altar. The rest of it would normally go to the priest, but because this is a special kata'ah for the people and for the priests, it's going to happen differently. It says, and he who released the goat, we're changing gears a little bit now, and he who released the goat as the scapegoat, the Azazel, shall wash his clothes and bathe in his body in water, and afterwards he shall come into the camp. Now it says the bull of the kata'ah and the goat of the kata'ah, whose blood was brought in to make atonement in the holy place. Now here they go in the holy place. Remember, it was done in the Holy of Holies. Shall be carried outside the camp, and they shall burn in the fire their skins, their flesh, their offal. So everything but the sin, but the fat is going to be burned outside the camp. It says, then he who burns them shall wash his clothes. This is the one who's burning these things outside the camp. So apparently the high priest who killed these animals is now going to, does he bring them out? Were they killed inside the court? I would assume that they were. So he would have to drag them outside the court to give them to somebody else to take out to the burn pile. He who burns them shall wash his clothes, bathe his body in water, and afterwards he shall come into the camp. Verse 29. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, good. I was hoping we were going to talk about this. Then this shall be a statute forever. Here, let me read it on the right. And this shall be a statute forever to you, that in the 7th month, on the 10th day of the month, ye shall afflict your souls. Your souls is your nefesh. This is Ya'al's. This says Ya'al. And the word here is nefesh. Thoughts and emotions. This is not a body. This is thoughts and emotions. I talk about this at length. In fact, let me point out to you. I think, do I have it up? I don't think I do, but I would click here. I'll just take a moment. Afflict your nefesh, thoughts and emotions. Here it is. This is my teaching on this issue. And if you go to Feast of Yahovah and then down to Yom Kippur-rim, I have the Day of Coverings, Afflict Your Soul, and the 2 goats. I talk at length about these. Some of the things that I skipped today are included in these 3 articles. This is talking about afflicting your soul, your thoughts and your emotions. But look what it says. You shall afflict your souls and do no work at all. Now look what it says. Whether native of your own country or a stranger who dwells with you. What does it actually say? It says the Ezrach. Whether he is the Ezrach, Ezrach. This doesn't even say Ezra Haaretz, which would be one born in your own country or one born in the land is usually how that gets translated. This just says Ezra. Ezra is Israel's seed. Or it says, or the Ger. The Ger is the one who dwells with you. He's left the kingdom of his birth and he's joined himself to Israel. That's why he's called the Ger. That sojourns with you. Got to understand who the native born is. You know, this is yet one more place where it talks about the Ezra. You know, we have got this thing in our mind, and it's really the publishers that have done it to us. You know, when I was a boy and we saw B'nai Israel, it was usually translated as the sons of Israel. These days, it's translated as the children of Israel, getting further away from the actual truth. Who is Israel? Are they females? Are they males? They used to say sons of Israel. At least we know they were males then. Now it's even getting further convoluted. Well, we're coming back to our roots, the old paths, the highways of Yehovah. Yehovah has some very high ways. We follow the low ways, and that is not going to lead us to salvation. It says, verse 30, for on this day the priest shall, I'm going to read it on the right, for on this day the priest on this day shall the priest cover you to cleanse you. It's talking about you. This is Israel's seed. This is the second person plural. He shall cover you, plural men, to cleanse you, that ye may be clean. All Israel's sins before Yehovah's face. Yeah, this is where the sins are being forgiven for Israel. Yehovah is speaking to plural men. Yehovah uses a breach, the kata'ah. Remember, the kata'ah, the kata is about we are aiming at something and we missed. We wanted to do it exactly the way Yehovah said, but we missed. And by the distance that we missed, that's the breach. And we're closing the breach with the kata'ah. Yehovah uses the breach or kata'at to cover the breaches, all the breaches of Israel's seed on this day. Verse 31, he says, it shall be a Sabbath rest to you, y'all, and y'all shall afflict your souls. Y'all shall afflict y'all's souls by a statute forever. You know, there's a reason why the King James uses these and thous, and you and ye and your. These and thous is a single man. The ye and ye, the you and ye and your are all plural men. Talks about the Sabbath. You afflict your souls by a statute forever. It shall be a Sabbath rest to you. Only thing we're going to do that day is afflict our soul. I think it's very inward looking that we're doing to search out our motives, our thoughts, our actions, and repent of the things that we have done that are not in alignment with Yehovah's ways. Verse 32, and the priest who is anointed and consecrated to minister as priest, hear that? This is the priest. This is why I said today, it says the priest. It didn't say the high priest. It says the priest. That's why he's wearing linen clothes. And the priest who is anointed and consecrated to minister as priest in his father's place. I'm going to read it on the right. Again, it gets a little more confusing when we talk about this atonement business. And the covered priest who is anointed and who is consecrated to minister in the priest's office in his father's stead shall put on the linen clothes, even the holy garments. Yeah, the priests have holy garments. And then he shall make a covering. So this is kind of a synopsis of what we just did. Remember, Aaron went in, put on the holy garments. And cover, here's what he's going to cover, the holy place, the tent of meeting, the altar. And he shall cover over the priests, over all the people of the assembly, he shall cover. This is what's going on. He's covering all these things on this day. This day is a covering and a cleansing of the breaches of spiritual Israel as a corporate group. Yes, this is as a corporate group. Interesting. Last verse. And this shall be an everlasting statute. Everlasting, here's the word they use for everlasting, olam, an olam statute to you over Israel's seed for all their sins. Look at here. Here's spelling it out, right? It's plain as day. For all their sins once a year. And he did as Jehovah commanded Moses. For all their sins once a year. Israel's seed's sins are all covered over on this day each year. But we must become Israel in order to be covered. A Gentile, a U.S. citizen, regardless of whether he afflicts his soul on this day, is not going to be covered. He's got to be Israel's seed. Again, we can do certain things. We can look like a goat. But are we the one who has a broken and contrite heart? This is what it's all about. All their sins covered. All their sins covered are only the ones that are confessed. I think all their sins are covered on this day. Yeah, I think all their sins. Becoming Israel's seed. You got two tries. You can do it in the first month, 14th day, or you can do it in the second month, 14th day. Jehovah gives you two tries every year to become his people. Will you become his people? Passover is not far away. But remember, you can't have other Elohim. You've got to leave your Elohim and join yourself to Jehovah to keep his statutes and judgments and ordinances. Then when you get circumcised and keep the Passover, you can truly be Ezra's seed. Ezra's seed. Yeah, that's what I want. All right, well, we're going to stop here. We'll talk to you next time. Y'all have a wonderful day. Thanks for visiting. Thanks for listening. Hope you stayed to the end. Please consider sharing this. Catch you later.